All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dive into the first part of Ryan Holiday's incredible book, Ego is the Enemy. We're focusing on a stage every single one of us knows well, that beginning of a new journey, that moment of pure aspiration.
And let's kick things off with this quote from the physicist Richard Feynman, because it really hits home, right? It's this powerful reminder that the biggest thing standing in our way, it isn't out there somewhere. It's that voice right inside our own head.
So what is this enemy Feynman's warning us about? It's not some rival company or a critic online. Nope. As Holiday points out, it's way, way closer to home. It's our own ego.
Now, we got to be clear here. We're not talking about the Freudian definition of ego. In this book, ego is that arrogant, self-centered inner voice. Think of it like a spoiled kid inside your head, just demanding praise it hasn't actually earned. It's that inflated sense of self that clouds our judgment and ultimately sabotages our own ambitions.
Okay, so Holiday gives us this really incredible framework for understanding this enemy. He shows us how ego doesn't just pop up once. It ambushes us at three very distinct stages of pretty much every major thing we try to do in our lives.
See, at any point in your life, you're in one of these three spots. You're aspiring to a goal, you're enjoying some success, or you're dealing with a failure. And the real challenge, the whole game, is to keep our ego in check through each one. To be humble when we're starting out, gracious when we win, and tough and resilient when we stumble.
And that's what we're tackling today. Aspiration. This is square one. It's when we set out to do something really meaningful, and it's exactly where our ego is most excited to trip us up before we've even taken a single real step.
Okay, so you're in that aspiration stage. What's the very first trap your ego lays for you? It wants you to talk. A lot. And so our first big lesson is all about fighting back with the power of silence.
You know that feeling, right? That itch to tell everybody about the huge, amazing thing you're about to do? We want that validation, that pat on the back. But this ancient wisdom from Lao Tzu, it just cuts right through all that noise.
I mean, look at the story of Upton Sinclair. This is a perfect, almost painful example. While he was running for governor of California, he literally wrote a book called I, Governor of California, before the election. By laying out his future administration in all this glorious detail, he basically got the psychological reward of winning without doing any of the hard work. So when the actual campaign rolled around, his drive was gone. He lost in a landslide.
Yeah, Sinclair's story just lays this trap bare. When we talk about our goals, our brain gets this little hit of dopamine, like we've already done it. It just drains your motivation. The key is to swap that temporary satisfaction of talking for the real, lasting strength you get from quiet, focused work. All right, so once we've learned to button it up and just focus on the work, we hit another major crossroads. This second lesson is all about a choice that will define not just your career, but honestly, who you are as a person.
This is a question from the legendary military strategist John Boyd. He'd ask his best students this, and he wasn't just talking about a job choice, he was getting at the very core of their purpose. In this fork in the road, it really makes you ask a tough question. Are you here for the title, or are you here for the task? That 2B path is all about chasing the appearance of success, the promotion, the fancy title, what other people think. But the 2Do path? That's about the work itself, making a real impact, sticking to your mission, even when nobody's watching. So if you choose that to-do path, it demands a certain way of thinking. And that brings us to our third and final lesson for this aspiration stage. Honestly, this is the foundation for everything else.
You know that little voice, the ego? It's always whispering, "You've made it, you're smart enough, you can stop learning now." But as the Stoic philosopher Epictetus pointed out thousands of years ago, that is the single most dangerous mindset you can have. It just slams the door shut on getting any better. Just think about Kirk Hammett's journey. He lands the ultimate gig, lead guitarist for Metallica, one of the biggest bands on the planet. I mean, his ego could have just gone supernova, right? But instead, he did something pretty incredible. At the absolute height of his fame, he went and found a guitar teacher, Joe Satriani, to go back to the basics. That humility, that choice to always be a student, that's what turned him from a rock star into an absolute legend.
So how do we actually do that? How do we stay a student? Well, the MMA champion Frank Shamrock came up with this brilliant system. First, you need a plus. Find someone better than you that you can learn from. Then, a minus. Find someone you can teach, because that really locks in what you know. And finally, an equal, a rival, someone who challenges you. This whole setup creates this 360-degree feedback loop that just stars your ego and guarantees you're always growing.
So you can see how, as we're trying to navigate this whole aspiration thing, every single challenge, every choice, it just keeps coming back to that one core decision.
These 3 ideas, they're basically the antidote to the ego that just wrecks so many amazing journeys before they even get started. Silence the talk, choose to do something meaningful over just being somebody, and never, ever stop being a student. That's how you build a foundation so solid that ego can't even find a crack.
And that brings us right back to square one, to that fundamental question that you've got to answer. And not just once, but every single day.
That choice is always there. It's a question life is going to ask you every single morning when you wake up. What's your answer going to be today?